Hello and a warm welcome back to the Pitch Side Podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the BSB. Like, share, comment on this YouTube version of this podcast, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from the episodes of the podcast and the match recaps and all the content on the channel. Listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Follow us on social media. I'm at SidePSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. Join us for more, and welcome to this episode 102. You're welcome. There's just a lot going on today in the world of football, and a lot going on this week, of course. But they cannot start. We cannot not start from the Europa League, of course, on Thursday, and it was more interesting than it had any right to be, and certainly it had a lot of bombs in it, so to speak, in terms of surprising results. And of course we start with the biggest one. Dinamo Zagreb managed to turn things around against Tottenham Hotspur and win 3-0 in Zagreb, of course after extra time, winning 2-0 in the normal time, getting the game to an extra time, adding the goal late on, with Mislav Orsic being the hero of the day, scoring 3 goals against Tottenham, a hat-trick, a beautiful hat-trick by the way, not just any hat-trick, like some incredible goals, an outside shot from the outside of the box, and then a run-in for the third goal, skipping past 4 or 5 Tottenham players. I mean, a surprising result in the way it happened. The first half was pretty tricky for both sides, and then the second half, the game just explodes in Dinamo Zagreb's favour. Tottenham had a lot of chances late on in the game, late on in the extra time as well, but then they couldn't equalise. They couldn't grab a goal pretty much to get their way through to the quarterfinal of that competition, and definitely deserved, I would say, to go out of this tournament. A horrendous performance from Tottenham Hotspur, unexpected really. I mean, considering that they played pretty much a full-studded lineup for this one, like they didn't exactly hold back. Hugo Lloris after the game went and said that this was a disgrace of a result. That this is the normal sort of situation in this club. What does that mean? You don't know. Probably this is going to be entering a lot of sort of doubt into the club and into the dressing room. You'd never know. These kind of statements do not really go well in the football clubs. In the North London, of course, from the woes of Tottenham to the joy of Arsenal, although it was a bit of a sour joy. They lost 1-0 against Olympiacos at home, and the ghost of last season almost haunted them for a second when Youssef El Arabi scored in the 51st minute a goal that could have took the game to a complete different route. Had there hasn't been a red card late on for Olympiacos. Of course, the red card meant that Arsenal had the game in hand pretty much, and they managed to see off this 1-0 result and go through to the next round. Granada continued their exploits in the European competition despite losing against Molde 2-1 in a game looked like it could have gone either way really as well, but Granada managed to hold on and hang on to go through to the quarter-final. Roma settled things up against Shakhtar Donetsk 2-1, and of course Villarreal managed to defeat Dynamo Kiev 2-0. Ajax doubled their victory 2-0, 5-0 on aggregate against Young Boys, and they go through to the next round. Rangers were the surprise, I think, of this competition. I thought that they could handle the situation, but definitely the game was even crazier than normal for Steven Gerrard's boys. 2 red cards for Rangers. Yes, 2 red cards, and one of them is. It's seriously, it's kung fu. It's not just any sort of red card. Like it's a kung fu kind of thing. Like seriously, the goalkeeper of Slavia Praha, I really feel bad for him. The guy had the full boot in his face in the 61st minute. Kemal Roof deserved the red card for sure. The second goal came straight afterwards for Slavia Praha. They scored early in the first half in the 14th minute for Peter Olajenka, and then the second half in the 74th minute, Nikolai Stanciu scored the second goal and gave Slavia Praha the all-important qualification. And Slavia Praha must love coming to England, really. They knocked out Leicester in the previous round. They knocked out Rangers now, and who knows, they might face United or Arsenal in the second round and next round, and that could be really, really interesting. So the draw for the Europa League is going to be taking place today, of course, and the last game definitely Milan didn't manage to go through. Manchester United get the job done in Milan, 1-0 away from home, an important victory for them. They affirmed their away form, they confirmed their away superiority, and they beat AC Milan 1-0. Paul Pogba coming in as a super sub and making things happen in the second half. Who thought I would say that? It is Paul Pogba's goal that gave Man United the qualification through. Of course, if you didn't check out the review of the match, check it out just to know and to hear what I say exactly about that game. I'm not going to really try and repeat myself a lot because there's other things to talk about. The draw of the competition, as I mentioned, is taking place today with the Champions League. We're going to talk about both tomorrow in the magazine episode to wrap up the ideas and try to get a better understanding of what this competition is going to be looking about. So expect a bit of a lengthy episode talking about the quarterfinals of those competitions both together. So to wrap it up, it's Arsenal, Dinamo Zagreb, Granada, Roma, Man United, Slavia Praha, Villarreal and Ajax are the teams through to the quarterfinal of the Europa League. Keeping in the spirit of the quarterfinals, and let's kick things off by talking about the FA Cup quarterfinal in this weekend review. Of course, the Premier League takes place, but not all matches are going to be taking place. Of course, most of them are going to be postponed due to the commitments in the FA Cup. The FA Cup quarterfinal kicks off with Bournemouth versus Southampton on Saturday. Everton versus Man City is also a big game on Saturday as well. And you have Chelsea versus Sheffield United and Leicester City versus Man United. Those are on Sunday. Of course, the big focus here on Saturday is Everton Man City. The questions are, could Man City win the quadruple? Definitely after the Champions League qualification now, going pretty much, settling the league and pretty much, wrapping up the league in the next couple of weeks maybe. And then, of course, you have an EFL Cup tie and the final against Tottenham side that you really don't trust. And as you mentioned, it's pretty a mess at the moment for the North London side. Why would we not fancy Man City to win the quadruple really in this one? Chelsea versus Sheffield United, this looks like an easy tie, for Chelsea and for Thomas Tuchel, considering their achievements in the Champions League, in the league as well, the way it has been playing, the way it has been, so strong defensively and improving a lot, in terms of how they attack and how they play. And Leicester City versus Manchester United, this is a tie where it absolutely gets tricky and could go 50-50. Definitely a tie to watch as well on Sunday. I think, probably aside from Bournemouth, Southampton, in a way, that only has the sort of FA Cup intrigue over it. The other ties are really, really interesting, and even, Chelsea versus Sheffield, as unbalanced as it looks, and as favoured Chelsea as they look, I don't really think it's going to be easy for Chelsea eventually on the day. A very interesting quarter final really. Again, Man City are the favourites, just the odds-on favourites to win it. I don't know, I have a feeling they won't win this one. I mean, they won't win the quadruple. That is the general consensus, that it's almost impossible to win the quadruple. It could happen, but definitely the metric for that is not the FA Cup, is going to be the Champions League and what they do in the Champions League. Definitely the, getting through the quarterfinal, is going to be a step forward in the quadruple for Man City. I'm talking both this competition and the Champions League. Their game against Everton is going to be hard, but if anything, you really have to favour Manchester City just of the nature of the way they play at the moment. So pragmatic, so realistic, and so convincing as well. The fact that the way they play, it can't give you any chance, it can't give you a lot of chance certainly to go through against them in any game, and you cannot bet against them in any game at the moment. So that is an FA Cup quarterfinal to look forward to as well, and we're going to of course talk about that more in the coming episodes of the podcast. Hopefully on Sunday and on Monday we will get to talk about these matches, of course, before the pause we're going to be doing ahead of the international break. Staying in the Premier League, and 5 matches are going to be taking place, of course, this weekend, because the other teams certainly are in cup competition commitments, of course. So no Tottenham versus Southampton. Instead, it's going to be the game in hand for Tottenham against Aston Villa on Sunday. Fulham versus Leeds United, this is on Friday. Tottenham versus Southampton is cancelled, as I mentioned, for the commitments of Southampton in the Cup. Brighton Hove Albion versus Newcastle United, and West Ham United versus Arsenal in a London derby. Of course, the other games are going to be scheduled for later dates. Certainly, not exactly the biggest of talking points we could talk about here, but obviously this might be a chance for the likes of Aston Villa and Arsenal and West Ham really to get into some top 4 spots, even momentarily, as the other clubs are really are committing themselves in the Cup. All the top 4 are committing themselves in the FA Cup, so it's a chance for West Ham to get one over Arsenal and win, and go top 4 spots even momentarily at this moment. I mean, from out of nowhere, really, it looks like the top 4 race is not just blown wide open. Like, it could even like go to the wire. We could not even know who's going to be in the top 4 any longer. It's going to be musical chairs till the end of the season in England to try to define who's going to be top 4. Certainly, West Ham versus Arsenal looks like the biggest game, at least of the 5. Or we can talk about, some sort of intrigue heading into it. Arsenal coming, of course, of the European qualification. Not exactly best performance ever, but a qualification that they will take home. They will really try and accept it as facts as much as possible against the West Ham side that is doing so well this season under David Moyes, trying to be this kind of aggressive defensive team that does not let spaces, and they're doing so well. Like, being in the Europa League is not going to be any shame for them, really. It's not going to be, any kind of disappointment. It will be actually an overachievement in itself, because people were not expecting them to get into this position, to be this, consistent, really, comparatively to the other sides that normally would have competed for the top 4 spots, who are below them, like the likes of Liverpool and Tottenham and Arsenal who faced them. I think it's a pretty interesting situation for West Ham, for David Moyes. We'll see how they're going to be doing. There's a lot of questions whether they could make the top 4. Are they strong enough? Are they consistent enough? Are they sort of experienced enough to have enough boys to go through the rest of the games in the season, without picking up a lot of injuries, without picking up a lot of slack, without dropping in form massively to lose their sort of good finish this season. I mean, they would want to go into Europe, and they have the right really to be greedy and to try and go for a European spot, and definitely the top 4. I don't think it's that far-fetched from reality when you consider how West Ham have been performing this season. But I still think that Chelsea is just a tad above them in terms of performance, and they really better and improving on Thomas Tuchel, and it's hard to see them slipping and letting that top 4 spot slip. 3 points behind Chelsea. Of course, Chelsea not playing this weekend, so definitely a chance for West Ham to at least go joint on points and see what could happen later on. For Arsenal, from out of nowhere, they find themselves pretty close, really, of those top 4 spots. A win against West Ham takes them behind Tottenham 1 point, depending on how they're going to be playing against Aston Villa on Sunday. How's going to be the result? We'll see how things are going. Top 4 is pretty weird, sort of musical chairs kind of game at the moment, and definitely deserve the watch in the Premier League, and at least it keeps things interesting, while we all know that Man City are going to be winning the title and running away with it pretty much. From the Premier League and the FA Cup and all that sort of atmosphere, we go to the Bundesliga, and definitely a pivotal fixture in the Bundesliga this weekend takes place, the round 26, and it kicks off with an interesting match between Arminia Bielefeld and RB Leipzig. Interesting because Arminia Bielefeld, not because of Arminia Bielefeld, but because RB Leipzig, really. Of course, the next fixture after the international break is going to be RB Leipzig versus Bayern. There's a lot of sort of different situations revolving around this, around this match as well. Definitely there's some players that are going to be called up for international duty, and quarantine problems are looming, and there's a whole bunch of issues to deal with for those clubs returning from international football. But definitely this is an important fixture. RB Leipzig have to win on Friday if they want to keep up with Bayern, if they want to, waiting for Bayern to slip against Stuttgart, which is unlikely, but still, they're going to be playing against Arminia Bielefeld. This should be an easy game. This should be a game, I think available, up for grabs for RB Leipzig. Should be an easy win for them. They could really do well, to win by a comfortable scoreline and give themselves a boost ahead of the international break. We know that's going to be all thinking about the game against Bayern, of course, for the next 10 to 13 days. Really, speaking of Bayern, they kick us off on Saturday against Stuttgart. There's Köln, Borussia Dortmund, Eintracht Frankfurt versus Union Berlin, Werder Bremen versus Wolfsburg, Schalke versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. Those games are all on Saturday. Hoffenheim, Mainz on Sunday, Hertha Berlin, Bayer Leverkusen on Sunday as well, and Freiburg face Augsburg. Back to the Bayern point. Definitely after the qualification to the quarterfinal of the Champions League, the thinking is now settling the league. Trying in the next 2 games really, because the game against Leipzig is going to be preceding whatever quarterfinal is going to be. I mean, it is definitely going to be a big quarterfinal, like 9 times, like really, not 9 times, 6 times out of 7, it's going to be a big quarterfinal in the Champions League. I mean, probably except Porto, the teams are left are really, really high caliber, and it's going to be very, very hard tie whatever it happens and whenever it comes. Even against Porto, it's going to be a hard tie. So Bayern Munich, I think, the biggest priority for them should be settling the league, getting the league done, getting the league dusted before the game in the Champions League and before exhausting themselves in the whole conversation of the Champions League quarterfinal. And I mean, the slip is forbidden really here. I mean, dropping points against Stuttgart, it cannot happen. There should be a win for Bayern, and probably there should be some turnover as well from Hansi Flick. There should be some rotation. He did that against Lazio, as I expected. He did a couple of changes, starting with Choupo-Moting. Definitely, it's an interesting one. It wasn't. It wasn't an easy game by any means, but definitely it was a game that Bayern played at second gear. So against Stuttgart here in the Bundesliga, it definitely needs to be a very decisive, a very emphatic, very statement kind of win for Bayern before the game against Leipzig. Sending a message to that side is important that Bayern Munich are ready and they're going to be, again, dominating the title and going to be taking the title again, because Leipzig might just, bounce on any mistake, any slip Bayern are going to be having, and certainly depending on that result on Friday, you never know how things are going to be going. Of course, the difference between them at the moment stands at 4 points. Bayern, I mean, if Leipzig drop points, this could be 5 or 7, but I really doubt that they're going to be dropping points against Arminia Bielefeld, so I'm assuming Bayern Munich should be winning on Saturday and keep that difference going ahead of the game between them on the 4th of April after the international break. Borussia Dortmund face Köln in a really tricky one as well, away from home. They lost to that side 2-1 in the first match. Of course, Elias Schiri, my Tunisian boy, scored twice in that game. Can he do it again and be their haunting ghost? He scored against Bayern, by the way. Yes, they lost 5-1 and all, but at least his goal was beautiful in a way. He managed to be introduced amongst the elite that chipped it over Manuel Neuer. It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a hard game for Edin Terzic, of course, continuing on his good form slightly. I think aside from the loss against Bayern and their Classica, they've been going about their business really, really good, eliminating Gladbach in the Cup, eliminating Sevilla in the Champions League, and they've been really decent about their business this season. Definitely they want a top 4 spot this season. They are 2 points ahead or behind Eintracht Frankfurt, who face Union Berlin on Saturday as well. This is going to be also an interesting situation about the top 4 in the Bundesliga. We know that Bayern and Leipzig are going to be in their places, and there's not going to be a lot of change in that, so it's about Wolfsburg, Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund. This could be really interesting to see who's going to be making those top 4 spots. Wolfsburg and Eintracht Frankfurt are going to be an interesting combination. Frankfurt hasn't been in that competition for a long time. I think since the mid-70s they weren't there. And also you have Wolfsburg, who are really doing well and want to return back to that competition. Wolfsburg face Werder Bremen, Borussia Mönchengladbach face Schalke, as I mentioned, Hoffenheim, Mainz, Hertha Berlin, Bayer Leverkusen, Freiburg and Augsburg. This is round 26 for you from the Bundesliga. To the Serie A and round 28, of course, of the Italian league. It kicks off, of course, with Parma Genoa on Friday, Crotone Bologna on Saturday, Spezia Cagliari also as well on Saturday. Supposedly, the game between Inter Sassuolo is cancelled because of the outbreak of COVID in the club. Semir Handanovic and other players have been tested positive. Hellas Verona versus Atalanta on Sunday, Juve Benevento, Udinese Lazio, Sampdoria Torino, Fiorentina Milan, and Roma Napoli is on Sunday as well. And with Inter not playing because of the COVID outbreak, as you mentioned, this is a big chance, I think, for the likes of AC Milan, Juventus, maybe Lazio, Atalanta to try and get a couple of points, as of advantage behind Inter Milan on top of the table. For AC Milan, I think it's a pretty done deal. They're not going to be winning the title. It looks as close as possible to Inter Milan as ever, really, with 9 points of difference. Juventus might try and claim something. I mean, winning against Benevento on Saturday, and also still having their game against Napoli that didn't take place on last Wednesday. Of course, it could be also a support card for them, giving them a chance to win and to get some points behind Inter Milan, maybe close down the gap. Who knows what could happen in the next couple of fixtures. Inter might not be the same team after the outbreak. I mean, this could really change a lot of things considering the fitness. I doubt that it's going to be changing anything to the point where Inter lose the title completely. It's just the fact that it might affect them slightly in a couple of games, really, because the effect of these things is well known, and we saw it with Man City, I think, when they had their outbreak. It was a positive effect in the end, but it definitely was an effect on the fitness of some players as well. Atalanta, again, against Hellas Verona, an easy one for them. They should be getting the 3 points. Udinese versus Lazio, of course, with the European exit for Lazio, they're back to the league, and they should be trying to get a top 4 spot, which seems very, very unlikely at the moment. Like, the top 4 spots is a pretty fierce battle going on between the current top 4 in Inter Milan, AC Milan, Juventus, Atalanta, and Napoli behind them slightly. They could creep into those top 4. Roma as well, and not that far. Lazio pretty far, 4 points from the 6th place of Roma, so they cannot really say that they can stake a claim for those top 4 spots as well. So, as you mentioned, this is going to be a pretty interesting week in the Serie A. Definitely a chance maybe for some teams to close down the gap on Inter Milan. For Napoli in particular, maybe to get an advantage, a direct competition between them and Roma behind them on the table. So whoever wins is going to, have an advantage on that. Napoli are going to be going probably above Atalanta if they manage to win and manage to defeat Roma. They go above Atalanta and they creep into those top 4 spots to return to the Champions League. And also you have Roma, who can do the same if they're winning. So probably the perfect result for the others is going to be a draw, but that all depends on the game between Atalanta and Hellas Verona, the game between Juventus and Benevento at home as well for the Bianconeri. And again, with Inter not playing, this might be a slight chance for those teams to get some points, in their table behind them. And, for AC Milan in particular, I think maybe get themselves to dream a little bit, winning this game, giving it the 6 pointers, and maybe wait what's going to happen from that point onwards and see how Inter Milan are going to be approaching the season after the return from the COVID outbreak. Hopefully, of course, the players that are of course, COVID positive, hopefully they're back soon and they're fit again really, really well. Of course, we wish them well all. And finishing off, of course, we talk about La Liga. Round 28 it is of La Liga. Kicks off with Real Betis facing Levante on Friday, Athletic Bilbao on Eibar on Saturday. The big game between Celta Vigo and Real Madrid on Saturday. Huesca versus Osasuna as well. Real Valladolid versus Sevilla. Getafe versus Elche. Valencia Granada on Sunday. Villarreal Cadiz on Sunday. Atletico Madrid Deportivo Alaves on Sunday. And Real Sociedad versus Barcelona, the big game on Sunday night. Definitely, it's all about the top 3 in La Liga. Definitely Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, and Real Madrid, and they play in the reverse order, so to speak. Real Madrid play first, so they have the chance to close down the gap to 3 points behind Atletico Madrid, and they have to be hopeful for a slip up for them. Of course, after 24 hours, when Atletico Madrid host Deportivo Alaves and Barcelona go away to face Real Sociedad. I really don't fancy Atletico Madrid this week. Like, I really I really don't fancy them to keep the points safe this week. I don't know. I feel like this might be a banana skin for them. Barcelona are right behind them, like 4 points, and they are really on a good form. Like, surprisingly, it's a good form for Barcelona. They can't be. It looks they can't be stopped at the moment. I mean, it's an exaggeration maybe, but they are in a really good form that you might give them some chance of winning the title, because nobody gave them a chance early on in the season. We were all talking about that bad form, the financials, Messi leaving, all of that. Of course, the team wasn't performing well as well. So now I think they are on a good stride, and Ronald Koeman maybe finally started to put the pieces into the puzzle and getting the team into the right form and into the right track. So probably Barcelona have a lot of chance going into this weekend. If Atletico Madrid drop points this weekend, I don't know how the league title race is going to be shaping up. It's going to be all out, I think, in terms of the title race. Real Madrid are going to be behind as well. They will definitely need to win their game on Saturday to try and get some sort of advantage in that competition. Of course, the game against Celta Vigo won't be easy away from home, and they haven't exactly had the best of memories in Celta Vigo in the last years. Real Madrid had they had a hard encounters. Yes, they win sometimes, but most of these encounters are really hard. Of course, it compares to nothing to Barcelona's memory there, who almost seem to be losing all the time against Celta Vigo away from home. But definitely, if Real Madrid win, they will have some sort of advantage, psychological advantage, maybe closing down the gap to 3 points, getting above Barcelona in the table might be a really important situation. You look at their form, Real Madrid. You really don't fancy them to win the league, despite the European qualification just happening, a couple of days earlier. But I don't think that they have what it takes to win the league, and they are really inconsistent. Their form drops horrifically, and they're not the best version of themselves in the league. You could talk to me about their character in the Champions League and how they defeated Atalanta with their character and their poise and their strength and whatever, but I don't think they have enough to win the league. Maybe they would close down the gap this weekend, but over the long term, I don't see them having a big shot at winning the title. Atletico Madrid, maybe Barcelona with not an outsider chance, but as much as a last push to win the trophy from Atletico Madrid, depending on if they drop points or not. Atletico Madrid, of course, after European exit as well. This is the third Spanish club that we talk about like that, after Sevilla and Barcelona. So with Atletico Madrid eliminated from the Champions League now, nothing really to distract them. This is going to be full focus on the league, and I think they should be clear to win it. Despite that drop in form, despite that somewhat of a lousy kind of form in the last month and a half or so, I don't really see them dropping too much points. I don't see them dropping the lead too much to the point where they collapse completely, because that is going to be calamitous, and that will spell the end for Simeone at Atletico Madrid, obviously, without any kind of question. That's it for me for this episode. I was your boy, the HRD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these podcast episodes and other content on the channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.